Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here to finish talking about the worst and best movies of all time that came out in January. Now, surprisingly, there are so many good movies that have come out in January that I'm not even going to have time to talk about all the honorable mentions. There's just way too many. There's even some bad ones that are kind of like guilty pleasures. So I'm just going to list off all these great movies that have come out in January to dispel the myth that like January is the bad month. Maybe it is now because studios, they want to have a month where they can just dump out the bad movies that they have and, people just accept it. But I'm not going to accept that. I think that January is a great month for movies, as proved by making this list. So here we go. Okay, which one should I start with? There's so many. Parents, that's pretty good. Caligula I really liked as a kid. The Dark Knight Returns Part 2. The Way Back. Fighting with My Family's okay. Texas Chainsaw 3D. Trailer Park Boys the movie. Thoroughbreds. Coach Carter. Tough Turf. Big Bully. The Rillick. Queen of Hearts. Boondock Saints, Rebel in the Rye, Sonic the Hedgehog, Gods and Monsters, The Best of Times, The Hunt, The Big Sick, Saw, Secret Life, Jeffrey Dahmer, Son of Frankenstein, Dracula Prince of Darkness, Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw 3, Star Kid, Epic Movie, John Wick 2, Stanford Prison Experiment, The Witch, Demon Knight, Ghost of Mr. Chicken, Return to Horror High, Return of the Living Dead 2, Memento, Popcorn, Intruder, Be Kind Rewind, The Gentleman, Hell's House, Foxcatcher, Buffalo 66, The Stepfather, Scanners, Waitress, Adventures of Barry McKenzie, House on Haunted Hill, Past Midnight, Lost Highway, Freeway, Blair Witch Project, and Whiplash. Now, that's a lot of movies that are really, really good, guys. Like, that's a lot. So if you ever think like, oh, January's the bad movie month, well, think about all these movies, Think about Memento. And think about, like, The Gentleman and, Blair Witch Project. And Blair Witch is something where I never liked that movie growing up because I saw it this one time and I just got so bored I fell asleep. But I rewatched it last year and I actually really liked it. So, anyways, I'm gonna move on to the top 10. This is gonna be like a shorter list video, and it's gonna surprise you guys because usually I go way too long on the list videos. Number 10 is Frankenstein and Me. Now, this movie is a great movie for a horror movie fan. It is all about this guy and his brother in Texas, and they are huge horror movie fans, and their dad is really supportive of their horror fanaticism, but then he dies. And so it's about them dealing with that, and they make a couple of friends, including Ryan Gosling as a kid, and it's a really, really fun and creative movie. It really shows like a lot of the stuff that you do as like a young horror fan. You'll have a really bad teacher who won't be happy with you liking horror movies. You'll have And by the way, it's Louise Fletcher, from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So she does a really good job at being the type of character that she always is, and or at least that she can be. And then I don't know, the movie's just really fun. Like, as I said before, like, I'm really biased towards it, though, because it's so personalized to, like, any horror fan. Like, they show them sneaking in to see horror movies at the drive-in, and it shows them trying to really create a Frankenstein's monster out of this carnival exhibit thing, and it's really, really good. I think it's on YouTube for free, and it's a 10 out of 10 movie, definitely. And number 9 is Moon. This is a movie it's really, really dark. It's probably one of the darkest movies of all time because it deals a lot with isolation, and it's all about Sam Rockwell is this astronaut who is helping to mine these resources for a certain amount of years. And the twist is that there's another version of him in the space station, and he has to figure out why are there doubles? Like, why is there another version of himself that's there? And what's going on here? And it's really, really creepy. It's very realistic because it feels like it's something that would actually happen in the future. And I'm not going to give away what is actually going on. The music is perfect. The acting is perfect. Flawless. Kevin Spacey plays a robot, and he's really, really good. Even though he's bad in real life, his character's really good. And then, this is just a fantastic movie, and it was made like in such a confined space with like hardly any actors and hardly anything, and it's like they really did a great job at making a movie without very much and very many actors. Like, I really think that it's a great movie to watch in terms of that type of thing as well. And number 8 is Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Love the Bomb. Now, this movie is a very smart, funny, good movie about nuclear conflict. It has Peter Sellers playing 3 characters, doing a really good job. And it's such a rewatchable movie. Like, every time you watch it, you'll find something new to love about it. Personally, I can't really remember as much because I've only seen this movie 3 times. I watched it like 3 times in 2021, and I haven't really watched it since because I haven't been really in the mood to, but it's a really, really good movie. It has kind of a dark ending, but at the same time, Stanley Kubrick wanted to make a sequel, and it's funny because his sequel sounded really, really good, and I still think they could actually make a sequel, and it would be very relevant to nowadays with, like, Mark Zuckerberg, just building that underground bunker for himself. Like, they really could do something with that, of what originally the sequel was supposed to be. In fact, I pitched an idea last year around this time, and I said, wouldn't it be hilarious if they all got into the bunkers and they all just magically managed to escape, even though it was clear that, like, the people in the war room, they did not know that, like, the bombs were going to go off at that point. And I said, what if Dr. Strangelove got sex transition surgery and he turned himself into a woman? Or just what if he was like a transvestite or something, and he's doing that so that he can fit into society nowadays. Like, that'd be really funny to see Dr. Strangelove as like a woman. And the thing is too is that you could get like a good actress to play this character. It wouldn't even have to be like a guy. You could get a girl. And I think it would be really, really funny, and it would be really good. Number 7 is Lifeboat. This is a very underrated Alfred Hitchcock movie. It's a great story about these people they who got on a lifeboat after their ship got destroyed, and they have to survive. And then all of a sudden, there's this other guy who shows up, and he's a German. And it's like, is he a bad guy? Is he not a bad guy? Because this movie it took place in the middle of World War II. And so it was possible, because he came from a German U-boat, I believe, and so it was possible that he was like a really bad guy, and that he wasn't just like a innocent like prisoner of war or something, or not prisoner of war, but like just an innocent guy who was on the ship. But like, no, he might have been a really bad guy. And so it was a very suspenseful story right up until the end. And a lot of people said that it felt like a propaganda movie. I didn't get that at all. I felt like it was a very interesting story. I really liked Tallulah Bankhead in the movie, and I thought it was a really fantastic movie. And number 6 is Shadow Zone, My Teacher Ate My Homework. Now, this is another movie that I'm biased towards. It's all about this kid, and he has a shitty teacher, and he finds this doll at this shop, and the doll looks exactly like his teacher. And he finds out that anything that happens to the doll will happen to his teacher. And then the doll comes to life, and she starts trying to control the main character. So she's basically a female Slappy from Goosebumps. You know, she wants to make him her slave. And this is a really, really classic, good movie. It is a kid's movie, which I don't really notice it very much, because it's so enjoyable that, you know, anyone of any age could watch it. I watch it every year around Halloween. It's a perfect movie to watch around Halloween, and it's really dark, you know, surprisingly for a kid's movie. Like, as a kid, I got really scared of this movie. Like, there's this one scene where he's home, and, you know, he still hasn't seen the doll come to life yet, and it's storming outside, and his parents aren't home, and, you know, I used to get scared of thunderstorms, and so it was just really, really creepy and scary, this movie, but also very funny, too. So, yeah, I really love this movie. It's definitely one of my favorite movies ever. And number 5 is The Founder. This was a movie that I was not going to actually watch originally, because I used to really like Screen Junkies before they, you know, got rid of Andy Signore for no reason at all, and they, you know, made up a bunch of bullshit about him. But I used to really trust their opinions, you know, the people on that place for the most part. And when they talked about The Founder, they said that it was just a boring movie about eating burgers or something. Like, they said something like really insulting about the movie, as if it was just a really boring movie, and, you know, you just sit there watching people eat burgers for 2 hours, and I was like, ugh, that doesn't sound good. But then years later, I was at the real home, and I was trying to upload a video, and it was taking a million years. And so I was trying to find something to watch to keep myself occupied, because back then the internet connection was so bad that I couldn't like get on the internet or anything, and I had to wait for hours for a video to upload. So I found The Founder, and I said, I might as well watch this. And I was like, holy shit, this movie's a masterpiece. It's a very good true story movie. Michael Keaton gives his best performance ever, and he was snubbed for Best Actor because the employee at the movie studio forgot to submit the movie for Oscars. So that's actually another kind of funny story about it, and it really exposes how Roy Kroc was a terrible person, and that even though you really like McDonald's, you should learn the true story behind it. And, Of course, nowadays they support Israel, so, that's another reason not to like McDonald's. But it had very good beginnings, like the McDonald's original people who actually came up with McDonald's. This movie also shows them and talks about them, and it's thoroughly enjoyable. Like, there was nothing in this movie that was boring at all. So that's one of the movies where I was like, God, I wish I watched that movie back when it came out and not listened to the dipshits, who told me that it's a boring movie where people just eat burgers. Like, fuck you. Like you could just reduce any movie down to like some boring sounding blurb. Like, you could say, Doctor Strangelove is just about a bunch of stupid military men who sit around in a room for 2 hours. That's really boring. A Lifeboat is just all about this group of idiots who sit around in a lifeboat for 2 hours. It's really boring. Like, any idiot could say that, and it just shows that, like, some people are really not very good critics, and they really don't know what they're talking about. They're just trying to be funny and clever, and they just come off as retarded. Number 4 is Silence of the Lambs. Now, I don't even need to talk about this movie. I mean, it's a masterpiece. You know it. I know it. Everyone knows it. This movie is perfect. It's a 10 out of 10. I mean, Silence of the Lambs is a January movie. I mean, isn't that enough for people to not say that January is bad movie month? Like, that's all you need. You don't even need any other movie besides this one. Once you know that that's a January movie, like, come on. And number 3 is American Psycho. And once again, January is a bad movie month, but then you have movies like American Psycho coming out. I mean, are you kidding me? American Psycho is one of the greatest movies ever made because it's so honest and it's such a great, like, horror movie, but not really a horror movie. It's such a great, like, true crime movie without actually being a true crime movie. The main character is really likable, even though he's really, really evil. And it's so rewatchable. Like, I've seen this movie like 1,000 times. It has a great soundtrack. It has great performances all around. The ending is very interesting, and it gives you something to think about. I love this movie, and the funny thing about it is that if anybody watched it, they would think that it was made in the 80s, because it looks and feels exactly like it's in the 80s. But surprisingly, this movie was made in the year 2000. And so the fact that they were able to make it feel exactly like the 80s is just really, really impressive. And also, anyone who watches the movie, they would think, this movie's obviously made by a man. I mean, there's a scene where he has a threesome, and he's like, he's flexing his biceps in the mirror while he's going to Pound Town, and like all that kind of thing in this movie. It's a very, very, like, sexy movie in that type of way. But actually, this movie is directed by a woman. This movie is made by a woman. It might have been based on a book that was written by a man, but it was made into a movie by a woman. And so that's also another hilarious thing, is like, you can't even call this movie like a sexist movie, because a woman made it, and she did a really good job. And she's pretty good at making movies. I mean, I think I just watched another movie of hers recently, and I thought it was really good. So number 2 is The Shop Around the Corner. The original, not the You've Got Mail bullshit that they made. So this movie, it is a classic. It shows how to do a romantic comedy and how to do it right, because it's really not just a romantic comedy. It's a drama. It's a family movie. Anyone could watch this movie. And the problem with romantic comedies nowadays is that a lot of them are chick flicks, and a lot of them are very, niche, and they're very formulaic. And this movie really feels like an honest and authentic, like really a beautiful love story. It's also unique because, unlike nowadays, it has a love interest that you would actually want to get with. Whereas nowadays they're not really concerned with that because they think that if you make a woman in a movie attractive nowadays, that you're objectifying her or something. And so, like the character in this movie, though, everyone who watches the movie wants Jimmy Stewart to get with her, and that is the key to making a romantic comedy movie. You can't have a good romantic comedy if you're sitting there the whole movie not really caring if the two characters get together or not. And unfortunately, that's how they all are nowadays. I mean, did you see that Anyone But You movie that just came out? It's like, oh, look, they're the two pretty people. I wonder if they're going to get together, and I don't really care. That's what that movie was. And, like, contrast that with this, where this movie is just, it's perfect. It's a masterpiece. And number one is Heathers. Why? I think you guys know why. I mean, come on. It's Heathers. This movie transcends movies. It's perfection. It's a masterpiece. It's art. It's dark and comedic at the same time. It has a feeling that I've never seen any other movie replicate, to where, it's a very dark movie, but at the same time, it's somehow, like, really, really charming, and it's really, really, like, comforting. So this movie, like, it's just, it's so perfect. Like, there really isn't much to say. Like, it's got Winona Ryder, obviously. That's part of why it's perfect. But it's just, it's the best of everything. Like, you can't do better than Heathers. I have a shirt that I paid a guy to go get signed by one of the Heathers in the movie. And it was funny because I really didn't know a thing about, like, what good markers to use on, like, a black shirt. And so I sent him this specific Sharpie to sign it with, and she signed it, and he took pictures of her signing it, and it didn't come out well. It didn't really show up on the shirt as much, so she turned it around, and she signed it again for free with her own marker. And so she signed the shirt twice, Shannon Doherty from Heathers. And so, my goal is to get, other signatures on it too. But I'm not going to send it through the mail because there's no fucking way I'm losing that because of these stupid agencies not, taking out my shirt and getting it signed for me. I'll keep it, and then if the opportunity ever comes, I'll whip it out in 2 seconds. It's in a box, and it's very protected because this movie is definitely it's just, there's no flaws in this movie at all. Like, there's literally not a single thing about this movie that I would change. It's perfect in every way. And once I found out that Heathers was a January movie, I was like, oh shit. Like, seriously? Why do people call January a bad movie month? Like, it doesn't have, like, there's a lot worse movies that didn't come out in January. You know what I mean? Like, Barbie didn't come out in January. You guys know how bad that movie is. A lot of MCU movies, they didn't come out in January. And you know how bad a lot of the MCU movies are. So, like, yeah, like, let's just stop the whole myth that January is somehow a bad month for movies. When really, I just proved to you guys within an hour's worth of time, January is a great month for movies. Next year, it's going to be a great month for my movie coming out. And, yeah. So anyways, please like this video and comment. and subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest videos like this. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.